Good morning and welcome to Sales Chatter. Happy Friday, the logistics podcast where we aim to help 10,000 reps hit a million GP. I'm your co host, the logistics monk, also known as Ryan. With me is my good friend. Happy Friday to you, brother. President and CEO of RGTX Logistics Solutions, the bodacious cowboy, Jeff Dickinson. What's going on, my man?
Good morning, my friend. Friday has finally arrived from a tough week. I don't know about you, but mine was pretty tough, but good in a good way. But what better way to end the week than with our good friend, Nicole Glenn, the Expedite Goddess? Let's go.
Welcome to the HPLS podcast. Live, relevant, and high performance information, conversations, and education weekly.
Gotta love that name. We got the nickname Fridays going on. We got the comments popping this morning. So, I think both of us, I know for myself, we have our own individual connection of how we got to know Nicole. I known her through Dan, but just seeing how she's basically done business, how she operates herself. She is what she won in 2022. She won the top women-owned company. She is a podcast. She is in the podcast game like us with the LLC podcast, which is the Ladies Leadership Coalition, and just continues to push the bar and be an inspiration for women across the industry as well. Jeff, I would love to get your thoughts on our guest today.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, she's been to a ton of conventions, ton of events. She's been on a gazillion podcasts. We're honored to have her join us. I had to pull a few strings together to do it, but she did it. And let's bring her on. Nicole Glenn, owner and founder of Candor Expedite. The Expedite Goddess.
You're making me blush. That's so nice. And all the things you were saying. I'm excited to be here with you guys.
Thanks for joining us. I appreciate it. As you well know, for the last 3 weeks, we've been hot and heavy on a really important topic: empowering women into logistics. I know this is an important topic to you as well. You talk about it a lot at your events, the conventions that you go to. So I'm so happy to have you on board today. Tell everybody about yourself, your company, and how you became the president and founder of Candor Expedite.
For sure. I like to always say I was in logistics when logistics wasn't cool. Now I feel like it's a trendy spot to be, but I've been in transportation for 23 years. And so I've been lucky. I've gone through so many different roles and ops and sales and management and leadership. And so in 2017, I decided it was time to take that leap and start my own company. And so the birth of Candor Expedite came. And truly the name is exactly what I've been trying to bring to the logistics front, right? So Candor, which a lot of people ask me this question in regard to our name, because it's CAN.DOR. That's to say, hey, pull that right from the dictionary and take a look at what that definition means. And that's what we want to bring to the table in logistics. And being in it for so long, I've come to realize that it's still got that, hey, everyone's kind of telling the story, right, of lies, as candidly as I can say it.
Right.
So I want to do something different. So we are in the expedited space. We started with just hot check ground shipments and have built out to different modes. So now we handle air freights, first and final mile. I call it our multimodal division. So it touches all things that need to be specialized. So we're a specialty company for specialty freight and trying to lift and approach our customers with more of that consultative approach so that we can really peel back the layers, understand what they need, create a strategy, and get them to rock and roll to make them the heroes that they should be in this day and age of transportation.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you always come from Expedite, or were you in another mode and you just fell into Expedite and you said, you know what, I really love this. Let's go full case forward,
Well, it was always something that happened at even my very first transportation job, small little transportation brokerage. And 4 o'clock, my boss would hear the phone ring and he'd go, "Don't pick it up. I got it." Because he knew that when those calls rang in, that it could be something that was urgent. And so I always got involved in the time sensitive side because I liked it for many reasons. I like to actually help people create a solution when they need it. So it's always been a service offering. I did work at a company that when I first got there really specialized it. Dan, I'm seeing you on. Hi, Dan Deigan. So first and foremost, I've always had it in the background. And when I started the company, I went, you know what, this is a great segment. This is the most chaotic, crazy spot of it. And I love it. So I'm going to roll with that spot and really try to build that out. And it's a great place for me. I do love chaos to turn it controlled. It's like, I don't know what I do. I don't just take anything lightly. I jump full in, right? Can't just have one kid. I got to go two. I got to have twins. I got to do all the things that make your head spin. So,
Right. Logistics. It's not a job, it's an adventure. And every day we go on safari hunting for one thing or another because we're always getting blindsided. We know what yesterday brought. We don't know what tomorrow is going to bring, but we sure know what's happening today, probably minute by minute, because you never know when you're going to get hit with something. It's how fast you respond to requests that makes you who you are. And that's the huge differentiator, right?
it is, and it's coming through all the way through when things go off course or, when something is wrong for someone else, it's coming through with that solution and following it all the way through, keeping people in the loop of what's going on. And so that communication, a lot of people say it, but we really live by it. And it's really made a huge impact in our business. I mean, we talked to some of our shipper clients, and I had the biggest, best compliment I ever got was, in 40 years of being in transportation, I've never worked with a company like yours. If you can say anything better to me than that, buy a lotto ticket that day. Cause that feeling to get that in writing was like hit right at the chest. It was good stuff.
And that's on your wall, isn't it?
It is. It's on all the different, on the window. I can't show you guys, but I have all these things on my window of quotes to really like live by and things that have been good that come my way.
And that pretty much creates the culture in your company as well, because that credibility, that standard, that value that you bring to your customers day in and day out, that speaks volumes for your company, your employees, as well as your customers, and you prove it day in and day out.
We do, and we focus on that even with hiring people. We go through our core values. We integrate that into everything that we're doing because it starts at the real fabric of your company and you weave all of those things in. And so we're very intentional, even with people we bring aboard. We want to make sure that they're living by that as well.
Yeah, let's get into women-owned business. I hate this saying, minority owned. It doesn't sound too good. That really doesn't, because why can't it be a majority? I mean, wouldn't you like to hear that? Women in majority owned company instead of minority. It's such like a downplay. I don't believe in it. I don't like that saying, but tell the audience out there the obstacles and challenges, barriers that you had to go through to get to where you're at. And the reason why I ask this is that there's a lot of new women coming into the business that are still wet behind the ears. We all know that logistics is very, very challenging. And what I'm trying to do is to help them to understand, the best outcome that they can expect if they put in that hard work like you did to get to where you're at.
Sure. Well, I think we're going to start seeing that women-owned and minority-owned is on the rise. And I think it's from things like this, right? It's from talking about it. It's from inviting people in this space and showing them that there's an opportunity for everybody. Even though this industry has been really male dominated, it is transforming. And I've seen that in the past 23 years. I've seen more people step in the space. And that's one of the things that I'm trying to be a change agent on, even with making a podcast, right? Going to colleges and talking to students and understanding what's happening with degrees in supply chain. When I was in college, there was no such thing as a supply chain degree. And so that's why I say I was in freight when freight wasn't cool. it's starting to really get out there that this is a great industry for all. It's still, there's still people in it though that hold this mindset. And I do have a story to share that actually happened yesterday.
Yes,
Um,
please.
it's not a good one. It's really not a good one on things that's still touching our industry. I came into the office and our HR leader, a woman that is just completely amazing. She is going to be announced as winning an award here soon. I can't talk about it from embargo, but she bust her butt in this industry. And she was interviewing for an executive position, and the gentleman she was speaking to said to her that he was going to miss his team if he moves on. And he had said that his team was very heavily dominated by male, all male. And he had said that some of his criticism was to really focus on diversifying it. And clear as day, says to her, well, I just don't feel that women should be in this space.
What?
Yes. So this just says, like, this is the sad part. So this is not a we're angry comment. I'm just trying to let everybody know that this still lives in our space. And so she calls him out and says, excuse me, did you just say that? And he goes, oh, not you. You're in the right role for where you should be in within logistics. And she said, did you do any research on our company? This is a female-owned business. And he said, oh, no, I hadn't. And she's like, I think our interview's over, but thank you. And she ended it, politely. But it just screams out that there are still individuals within this industry that are locked into old school thinking and old school mindset. And it's sad. And the concept is that mindset is going to go away, whether people like it or not. It is going to be embraced that women, minorities, LGBTQ plus is going to be a part of our world and needs to be, because everybody is pushing forward to make sure the right people, I should say, are pushing forward to make sure that's part of what's going to transform and change. So for me, being a woman in this space, I would love to actually have a day where we don't have to celebrate it's International Women's Day, more for the history of it, because hell yeah, I respect everything that's happened with all the women that have faced so many challenges, obstacles to overcome. But eventually I just want it to be in a normal day, maybe a history day, because as much as I love to say that I'm a we bank and I'm a woman-owned company and I'm a CEO leader of a female group, I want to just say I'm a leader, and create that mindset. And so that's how I look at it. And so when people ask me, and they'll ask about our podcast, and they'll say, well, do you explain to them that you have to work even harder? And I'm like, I think everybody has to work hard in this space. And I think if we're in that grind together, we can almost put our blinders on who the people are, as long as you have the right group around you.
Yeah, I agree. And, when I mentioned minority earlier, I just think it sucks, period, that nobody should be dumped into a category.
Exactly.
No matter what background, gender, or anything. Like you said, a leader is a leader. It doesn't matter your gender or anything like that. If you create and you provide and you do everything else as your equals, and everybody is equal the way I look at it, what's the difference? I mean, I really just hate that term, like you would not believe, And when we go back to the history, and you mentioned that, there was a place and time where we were, where we are today, where we need to be, and how the heck do we get there? You talked about, programs like ours and what you preach out there as well. But what else more can we do collectively to put this out there and put it behind us?
It's banding together, Jeff. It's doing things like I said, like this. It's hosting those conversations and welcoming people of all walks of life in the space. So for me, like, I love my female tribe. That's what LLC was. So just whoever is listening, maybe you're not aware, but a couple of years ago, I think it's been 2 now, I started a podcast called Ladies Leadership Coalition, and it is a total of 5 female owners in logistics that came together that wanted to really get issues out there and try to educate women and men. We actually have a lot of male followers that want to understand what can they do. So the one thing I will say about females, and I know I'm guilty of this too, is, and I'm saying this generally, so this might not be you, but a lot of females like to make sure that they have all the boxes checked before they'll jump into things, right? I'm not ready to be an owner because I haven't done X, Y, Z, and that's the same thing with jobs and roles and opportunities. And it's just known that males they tend to take more of a risk than what females tend to do.
Sure.
And again, this is a blanket statement. So there are some women that just charge forward and, kick ass and take names and don't think twice about it. But there are some that, want to make sure that they're in, if there's 5 boxes to check, they got them all checked, or maybe 4.5. And so I want to preach that message that I don't care if you're running you're in a position, you run a $5 million company, $100,000 company, a $300 million company. We're all learning. I do not check every box every day. I do not. I'm sorry to say it, but you guys don't either. It's one of those things that these types of conversations will help us continually grow and keep propelling ourselves into those next spots. So I hope that what we're doing is educating women and men and everybody to take those next stops, or those next jumps before maybe they're even mentally ready. So that way they can continually learn and propel themselves forward.
And I think there's beauty in learning while you're in it, right? When you're kind of put into that room and you got to kind of figure that out on your own. And I think even when we look at something like a checkbox, even for myself, like coming on the show, is like, am I ready for this? Is this something that I want to do? But then it's like, when I engulf myself in it, it's like, okay, let's do this. I'm going to figure it out regardless. One of the biggest things that I was paying attention to you, Nicole, was that when it comes back to Candor Expedite, is that one of the things that you guys do is try to be like a ninja button for your customers. Being
Ooh,
that kind
yeah,
of
you took that out. I'm giving you kudos. That's
oh
my
yeah, well, I do. I'm Mr. Research over here. We got to make sure our guests they're being researched and taken care of. And I want to get into the circle a little bit after. But with that being said, when it comes to being a ninja button for your customer, can you explain to the audience what that means in terms of being a niche service at what you do at Candor Expedite?
Sure. So like we had said in the beginning, like creating a business that was ultimately a ninja button it's not an easy thing to do, being in logistics for a long time and bringing people aboard that have been in logistics for a long time. It's having that consultative approach. So one of the gentlemen that we've hired, his name's Tyler Wired. He's amazing. He's a part of our sales team. He actually came from the shipper side. He was a shipper, I think, for 10 or 12 years. I always get those dates mixed up. But what he had said too is, like, to me, even when he was my client and we were talking about him coming aboard, shippers, that is 1/10 of their day is where we step in as logistics providers. They have to worry about production. They have to worry about their customer. They have to worry about customer service. They have to worry about even having the right people in the building to drive a forklift. It is not just sitting around all day taking that phone call like, hey, yeah, I want to talk to you about procuring you to be as a service provider. It's such a small spot, right? So they have all these moving parts happening. They have customer service calling them, hey, did you get this shipment out? My customer's asking. The sales person that sold that product is asking on where that is. The customer service on the other end needs to make sure that that's there. The purchasing team potentially that might need that product for whatever it is that's going into the next. It's this whole chain of people beside your company. It's like you're one little widget in the whole process of the supply chain. And so by doing that, it's to create something that's easy. So that way people can move on to the next thing. I mean, I've seen it and we've had it to where one shipment can end up taking up an entire person's day.
Yeah.
There's so many phone calls. I don't care what type of technology is out there. We all still play the game of telephone. And so when I wanted to create this, I'm like, hey, let's create that circle, and that we'll talk on the circle. Let's create that circle that closes all of those loops and is continuous so people can move on with those days. It's like my old boss who was waiting for that phone call at 4 p.m. He saw dollar signs. I literally see that as someone wants to get home to their kids. Someone wants to go to that baseball game. Someone does not want to be tracking a shipment over a weekend or have to worry about that at 3 o'clock in the morning. Like, hey, did that actually get on site for whatever food manufacturer is going to need that? So that's the concept of creating the Ninja button, listening to the customer, understanding what they have going on, teaching them. Because like I said, it's only 1/10. They don't live in our space. They don't see all the things that even we go through to provide those solutions. And so having that and presenting that and walking that through full circle is what makes that Ninja button. So that way they can deal with what they're really good at besides just that one holy cow hair on fire type of shipment.
Yeah. And when you look at that, you just make you provide value to that shipper, knowing that the fact that, hey, they've sent you something and they know that you're going to handle it and take care of it, knowing that, hey, you're not going to get that call at 4 p.m. saying, hey, we can't pick up today. One thing that I feel like a lot of freight brokers or salespeople in our industry can learn from your company is that in my research, what I was looking at is that Candor is a truck in hand company.
We
You're a
are.
company that doesn't believe in, hey, yeah, I can cover at this, and then you start searching for the market or some things like that. You got truck in hand, you got solutions, and when you balance that with perfect communication, being able to say, hey, this is where we're going to come into, and that kind of segues into the circle a little bit. Can you explain what you guys are kind of working on to basically make that Ninja button even bigger?
I know. So we're focusing more on the carrier side first and trying to tie all those loops. So we are building our own internal application that our carriers can get on, can use, can upload their equipment, can see what we have going on. That way we can also present to our clients like, hey, we have this open capacity in certain markets. I know it's a soft market right now, but everything is seasonal and cyclical, and transportation being in this for so long, and you hear this terminology of bloodbath. It's not. To me, it's normalizing. And I think this is something that we'll be seeing as an uptick again in Q3. But with that is how do you create all of those connections? How do you really show and align with your partners to get them the opportunities that they need? The expedited space is not this gigantic, mega fleets there are some companies like Load One, great company. They've built a great fleet, owner operator fleet. There's some other ones out there, but majority of these companies are small. They have maybe themselves driving a Sprinter van or a straight truck, or they might have 3 or 4 guys. And it's like, how do you build out your freight network with that in those smaller companies? So we work majority with smaller companies to give them those opportunities. So we want to take those trucks and give them what they need to keep that truck moving, and then continually build that out to our customer side. So that way they can see scorecarding on us, how things are going, go in there, take a look at shipments, upload things. Just again, taking all of these channels of communication. We communicate with some of our customers on Microsoft Teams, on chat. So it's like, how can we have one central place that people can go to and they get the same experience instead of, hey, I Slack this provider, I get on Teams with this provider, I have to send a TMS potential spot bid to this provider. I mean, how many different platforms are people on? And so I wanted to tie everything together for our company, our carriers, and our customers in one spot. So that way it's just seamless on where you are in that process and who you are with our company to make all of these things possible.
Yeah, I love what you said before about that 1/10 out of 10 things that logistics managers do, and I'm so glad that you mentioned that because a lot of brokers out there, people what you do, fail to work from the inside out, and how important that it is rather than working from the outside in, because that's when the true rubber hits the road. That's where the problems exist. That's where you can help out greatly and add so much more value than just the price or capacity that's out there. Tell the folks out there why that is so important, your approach about learning customers, their problems, their issues, what I call the hidden bank opportunities that you get to uncover to help them more than they would get help from other service providers out there.
Sure. I mean, it's really being in the operational seat. And I'll say this anytime, night and day, the best people are really operational people in the sales side of things, because they understand really how the mechanics work within at least the logistics side of things. So, in my perspective, I've been in the sales seat for a long time. I think I started truly in 2008 on the sales side of things. And so to understand and be in ops alongside of sales for that long, I've talked to thousands of people in transportation. I've talked to hundreds of shippers to uncover and understand what other ones are going through. And so it gives me that understanding that I can bring those same questions from listening to maybe even just cues that they're saying, to really uncover that those hidden gems within their supply chain where they can save money or change up and create a strategy. And that's one of the things we did just recently, create an article, which I would love for you guys to take a look at if you're interested in the expedited space. And that strategy is a report that's called Dirty Little Secret, because expedite is considered to be the dirty little secret of our industry. And what I mean by that is we tried to do as much research as we could in our sector of transportation. We went to all the main publications to say, what type of research do you guys have and data do you have on the expedited side? They had nothing. They had nothing that they could pull in that side, right? That sector of transportation. You want to talk about truckload or LTL? I mean, all day, right? You can get information, but with expedite, it's different. There's not a lot. There's companies still paying credit card payments upon pickup and delivery. From the shipper perspective, there's still that facade that expedite was a mistake and that's why it's happening. And that's not necessarily true all the time. It's creating that strategy around it that it can actually open up more doors from you. I can't tell you how many large shippers, I still talk to that are moving 1, 3, 5 skids in a tractor trailer because LTL will take too long.
Yep.
And it's easy just to bump it through the routing guide. And so we talk about this often to where I can ask that question and I uncover those types of things still happening within supply chain. And it's like, there are tailored options. There's tailored equipment to the size of a shipment that we can use and, reduce your carbon footprint, which is something that our whole industry does need to focus on.
Yes.
But at the same time, it's going to reduce your costs. You're going to get great service. And so it's talking through those types of scenarios with shippers and living it and seeing it consistently through supply chain to bring those types of solutions, but then educating them. And I think this is where sales folks tend to go wrong. They want to just get on stage and tell their story on why they're so good. And that's great. You probably are so good. That's awesome. But at the same time, you have to identify, where does that really fit within this person's supply chain? This potential customer still might not even be a fit for you. I was talking to Chris Jolly yesterday, and he was saying that same concept. He's like, getting down to his niche and his why has really benefited him in his career. And I think it's understanding that niche, listening to your shippers, listening to your customers, and then plugging in where you could potentially investigate. It's not a slam dunk. You still have to investigate that, do some legwork, and look at that data and see where you can bring an ROI and bring that value. So
Yeah,
long story short. I could talk forever on this. I'm
I
sorry.
know, and I love it because that's what I like too. I mean, I love data. There's a saying that I use was, I believe in God, everyone else brings data. So, I mean, when I used to go and do that kind of stuff, to your point, it's like Expedite. For me, that's a door opener because it's why are you doing Expedite? Do you have disruptions in your supply chain that's telling you that you don't have the inventory in the right place at the right time in order to get it to your end user in an expedited time? Why is that happening? And that for me opens up a tremendous amount of doors, especially when I was working in the automobile industry and it was time deficit because you had lines down $10,000 a minute if they couldn't operate. So I understand your niche in what you do, and it's very beneficial for the right customers out there as well. But the devil is definitely in the details, like you said. And the thing is the hardest thing to get from a client is that data, and you want that data, 3 months on the way I look at it, 3 months of the off season and then peak season, and then taking a look at those 90 days and what happens in that. So you get a good idea of the functionality of the operations and where their greatest needs are. And for what you do in your company, I think it's fantastic. Real short, what can you tell the women out there how to get into your type of business and find that value, find that niche, and know what they really like? I know it takes a little bit of time, but how do you find that? How do you get there?
Well, it's really sitting down and thinking that through. If you're already in logistics and you want to start a business in a space, pick a spot that excites you. If you're passionate about LTL, awesome. And then start building out your network. That is the one thing that I'm saying over and over again is that network is going to really help you decide and understand what's good for you, and mentors, put yourself out there. That's where I've seen my significant growth is I was always working in the business, not on the business. And then I started working on the business and developing my network and developing my mentors. And that's where this big leap went for me. I got to listen and take different perspectives from people and apply what's best for me, my business, my employees, my customers. And that's what I suggest to you. And if there's anything I can ever do to help anybody really, but ladies that you're trying to do this, like, do not hesitate to reach out to me. I love to see women that are stepping in this space and hopefully give you even just my little tidbits of knowledge. And I will also introduce you to others that are in the same space, and you can get collective viewpoints. So
That's awesome.
That's amazing. And a couple points that you kind of said there was, hey, get the mentors and take tidbits from them that works for you. I feel a
Right.
lot of people get lost in the fact, and I did it early in my career when I got a mentor and I did everything that they did word for word, and it wasn't congruent with who I was as a person.
right.
So I feel like even when you read a book, I tell people all the time, I don't like reading books, but if I read a book, I'll take two or three things out of there and then I'll put that into action. I'm not going to be able to recite page 5 of whatever the book was. So I think it's really impressive that you have that approach. You've kind of learned that, and then you're willing to give that as well. Because one of the big things we talk about here is serving others and being able to give back. Because hey, when you lift as you climb, you're going to get much more further. Nicole, I want to thank you so much for coming out today. You took your time out of the day you could have been doing anything else, but you decided to spend it with us. So we're truly
Thank you.
appreciative of it. Can you tell the audience how they can get a hold of you? And I really, really want to learn more about the LLC because it's something that I'm going to personally be checking out myself.
Sure. So Ladies Leadership, you can find it on YouTube. You can also find our LinkedIn page. It does stream on YouTube, so you get to see our beautiful faces, right, when we're on panel. But you can also go to Spotify, Apple, and just listen. So that's a great way. And then I'm all over LinkedIn, so feel free, connect with me. Don't just follow me. I've been noticing that a lot of people follow me and then I don't know who they are. So connect with me. Let's share some messages there. And I'd love to help whoever is in need. Send me a direct message.
That is amazing. So, I want to thank the audience for coming out this morning. I know I made a post today with our jam-packed episode for jam-packed week for next week that we have with amazing guests as we're coming down to the end of empowering women into logistics, but we're not done. So we're going to be making a special announcement that we got some more guests in different verticals coming up in the next 2 weeks. So if you found value in this, I know you did. Please like, comment, share this. Like I always say, share this with your neighbor. It doesn't matter. They don't need to be in logistics. They can find value out of this. So catch it back at the replay at 2 and 6 p.m. Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Twitter. And we want to thank our corporate sponsor, Daman at Centurion Trucking and American Logistics. If you're a sales rep and you're looking to make a move, well, hit up Daman because they're actually looking for sales agents across North America paying up to 60% GP. Can't get any better than that. And, Cowboy, just take us home, my man.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much again, Nicole, for joining us. We appreciated everything that you had to say. Very insightful. I know that there were a lot of golden nuggets out there for the women who are watching, even the men out there, to take into consideration. And I appreciate your offering to help them out there whenever they have a problem. So thank you again so much.
Thank you. Have a great day, guys.
Yep. And with that said, check us out next week on the Sales Chatter live at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have a big week for you next week. More nuggets coming out there. So with that said, have a great weekend. Bodacious Cowboy out. See ya.